continue. So welcome. Oh, whoops. Okay, welcome to the March 1st meeting of the Northwest San Pedro Bylaws and Elections Committee. And it is 6:05 p.m. Call roll. John Barbera.
Here.
Braun, no. Dan, no. Craig Goldfarb, no. Craig, it's not back yet. Cynthia.
Here.
Gwen Henry.
Here.
Ray Regalado.
Yep.
And Diana Nave, and so we have a quorum. The first item on the agenda, and there's Craig, so I will add him to the here list. First item is public comment on non-agenda items. If there's any public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we will move to the first item on the agenda, which is to consider additional changes to the bylaws. And I am going to practice my screen sharing skills here. Share screen, desktop, let's see. Bylaws, changes, desktop, share. Did that do it?
Yes, it did.
You
Good
can see
job.
great. Okay, first I want to thank Victor Christensen because he continued to review the bylaws for consistency and formatting. And he managed to figure out how to put in a table of contents where the pages will change if things change, which even Christina couldn't tell me how to do. So that was really great. As I stated at the board meeting, I felt that several of the changes that he had suggested, while they were consistent with the existing bylaws, went beyond technical changes and therefore needed to be considered separately. And it seemed that those changes could either be done through further amending the bylaws or incorporating them into the standing rules. Since we had one more board meeting at which we could consider bylaw changes, I'm recommending that these be incorporated into the bylaws. For the most part, the changes that you have before you are changes that are basically for consistency and for clarification. Main changes are Article 2 purpose, just added in the protected group military status or other legally recognized protected category. Next major changes in Article 5. This one here is just a reordering. It wasn't really a change. Article 5, duties and powers. Article 5, Section 3. Let's see if I can find this. Nation. Article. Well, I missed it. Where do we go? Article 5, Section 3. Article 4. Article 5. 1, 2, 3. Under official actions, it was simply adding a sentence that says that even though the youth member can't vote on certain things, such as contracting and funding issues, they may vote on all other matters. So that was just a clarification there. And then Section 4. In Section 5, under duties and powers, there's a sentence that's been added that says detailed membership rosters containing board members' personal and private contact information are for board committee chair liaison use only and shall not be disclosed outside of these individuals.
Diana, what was that last one? Not the one you just said, the one before that?
It was just a sentence to indicate that the youth member could vote on it, on everything else, just not the funding and contracting.
Got it. Thank you.
So it's not changing the intent, it just was clarifying. And then the last real change, and there's some little minor, word changes here and there or formatting changes. The last one is in Article 15, right at the end, on the section on training. See, On training, it's just adding a sentence that says in the event that a board member is unable to complete the training due to problems with the done training platform, the board may, at its option, vote to extend the time for completion. So those are the changes that were proposed in here.
So that would be before we vote on something, the person would say, hey, you know, I'm not allowed to vote, but because of this, can we
Well,
make a
it
motion?
would be, the situation that we have is we have a member now, as I understand it, who's been trying to access the Dun platform, training platform for several months, and has been, for some technical reason that Dun has not figured out, has been unable to do so. And so this is to allow, in a situation where the board member wasn't at fault at all. It was a problem with Dun, and we've seen that in the past with Dun platforms, that the board could vote then to say, you know, we will extend the time for this person to complete that training.
I don't want to sound precocious, but why didn't Dunn just hard copy him one in the mail, have him, you know, read it, and then he could sign it, send it back, and it would have been 1 month, not several months.
Yeah, I can't answer that. And I think I saw Vic Christensen's hand. Vic, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to update that. The person who had that problem was finally able to get the link to go to the platform, has completed the training, but it took like almost 3 months or so to get it done. And he kept checking with Dunn to try to get the link, and they finally got it straightened out, and he finally got his training done. But during that time, which is the little comment that I put in the side there, he wasn't eligible to vote on the funding issues because it was the ethics training, I believe, that he had to do. So I'm guessing the answer to the little question in the comment that I put there is, no, they would not be eligible. There's no way that I think the board would have the authority to say that somebody is eligible, even if it's not their fault that they couldn't get the training done.
Because that happened to me, and I just couldn't, I mean, I was good enough to finally get in under the hair of the thing, but I mean, I didn't get overtime, but it is hard to get into Dunn sometimes. It just doesn't recognize you. Or your password, or the way your name is or something.
Yeah, but
Gwen,
that,
excuse me, Gwen has her hand up.
So once again, the clarification is only for extending the deadline. It's not, it doesn't say to allow voting.
No, allow voting, she said.
No, that's not what it says.
I thought that's what she was saying, that we could allow them to vote.
Yeah, it says that if they have, they would be then able to vote if the board chose to extend the time for completion, because this gives them 60 days right now. But if for some reason, because of something that was really beyond their control, they weren't able to complete it. Craig was next.
I mean, well, this is for, they should be unable to vote on financial matters until they do it, whether it's Dunn's problem or not, period. Okay. 60 days is a long time, and we discussed that when we put this on there, because it was, if I remember correctly, it was 30 days before that.
It was 45.
45.
Yeah.
So it was, and we increased it to 60. I mean, I can see there may be problems, but 60 days is a long time to be able to fix those problems.
Okay.
Goes back to we should do it hardcover.
And we would have to figure out, I mean, there's some caveats here. Is what if the guy's saying, oh, I'm having problems, and it's not Dunn related, and it's just personal. So, this is a little, I mean, one, it definitely they can't vote on funding matters until they finish the training.
So you would oppose this change? Is that what you're saying, Craig?
Yeah, I don't think it really, I mean, we're looking at it and I'm saying, 60 days is long enough to get training. I've done trainings over the years and I've never had that bad of a problem. And, this is just saying if you don't, what we're trying to say is if you don't take your training, you can't vote. So get on the move on.
So
But
you would oppose
regardless,
this,
we
you would
need,
oppose this change.
yes.
So, okay, Vic and then Gwen.
The intent of when we talked about putting this in, Diana, my intent was that, I mean, along the lines of what Craig is saying is, to me, this was not, my understanding was this is not to say that the board can extend the voting eligibility time. This is the board saying that they can extend the training completion time because there is another rule that says if you don't complete your training within a certain period of time, then you're suspended or you have the possibility of being removed from the board or something like that.
That is not in here, Vic. That's not in here, Vic. This particular paragraph that you were amending was specifically to losing their voting rights until such time as they have completed their training. Do you want to withdraw this amendment?
Right, but losing the voting rights completely or losing the voting rights for only the funding type issues?
No, what this paragraph says, if you read it, is that board members not completing the training within 60 days, blah, 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 shall lose their council voting rights until such time as they have completed the training. That's what it says.
That's what we've always had, right?
I believe.
We had similar, but it was 45 days. So we changed it to 60 days. And then it says that all board members must take the ethics and funding training prior to making motions and voting on funding related matters. So this would. So my question to you, Vic, is that now that you've read that again, do you still want to make that amendment?
I'd like to amend the amendment to specify, and I don't know if we can do that here, I understand. But if that is meant to be a global, all voting type encompassing thing, then it needs to be reworded a bit to specify that the funding, okay,
let's talk about-
as worded, then yes.
Why don't you look at it for a minute? There's two more hands up. I'll come
Okay.
back to you. If you want to
Okay.
change it, it's your motion. It was your amendment. I mean, it's not your motion because it's not really a motion, but it was
Right.
your proposed amendment. So you got to come back and say what you want to do with it.
Can we change it during the meeting though, or do we have to come back later?
No, we can change it as long as we put what gets to the board. We can't change it in the board meeting, Billy.
Got it. Okay.
This is where we're changing it. Cynthia.
Gwen was first.
Oh, Gwen?
I have to concur with Vic. I could swear that there was a suspension, a hard suspension, unless it was completed within a certain deadline.
Yeah,
And
me
the
too.
wording here that's there does seem to be with that intent. I do not see the words that say that they are allowed to continue to vote on funding matters past I don't see that in that sentence.
It doesn't say that. So
Okay.
we've got this one question in here. Is there any questions on anything else in here? Because Vic's going to come back with some revised language or take it out, I think. Any questions on anything else?
On anything else of the other ones or on this one?
Yeah, on any of the other proposed changes.
Can
No,
you
but
put
just
it
on
back
this
to the
one.
first one?
When?
Tell me when we're back to this one, because this is where I wanted to express.
Can you
Well,
put it
you're
back
not-
to the first, put it back to your first one, the first change? In the
Yeah.
more or less in
Yeah.
the preamble?
under the purpose. This was proposed adding military status and other legally recognized protected categories to the protected categories. Vic, are you ready yet?
I wanted to say something too.
No, not yet.
Okay,
But with,
I couldn't tell because your hand's still up. Why don't you put your hand down until you're ready, and then I'll know you're ready. Great,
Sorry, forgot to put it down.
that's all right. Cynthia,
What was I going to say? Oh, I still go, when they were talking, I'm going back to thinking, how do we know it wasn't just the person trying to sign on that isn't doing it right? You know, it isn't the city's fault and things. So, I mean, everybody can either get in too late and then forget to do it, or just don't do it right. I'm not sure about just letting them get to vote if they say they just didn't get to vote or get the test done in time. 60 days is a lot of time to get it done, actually.
so you would not support this proposed amendment. Okay, Vic, looks like you're ready to come back with, let me get back there.
I still don't see why they can't do hard copies
Th-
to us.
Well,
It's,
that we can't deal with here because we don't really know what Dunn will or won't do.
this is not new wording. It's to clarify what happened. It's, yes, you could say that the person is just lying and saying they didn't get around to it when they should have. I agree, 60 days is a lot of time. What happened in this particular case is the person who was logging in to the platform, and I mean, again, I'm taking his word for it. So, you know, it depends on how much you want to believe what somebody says, but I'm taking his word for it. He logged in multiple times over a period of time. I don't know how much time, more than just a day or two. And there was no indication within the platform that he had anything that needed to be done. Usually there's something that's supposed to pop up that says you have training to be done. And there was nothing saying that he needed this training, even though the webpage, Dunn's webpage, had his training expired. So it's not that he was it wasn't, as best I can tell, you know, pilot error where he was doing something wrong, but it was Dunn's system not telling him that he had any training that he had to do. So that's what happened in this particular case. Now,
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're not going to propose change, Vic, I'm going to have us vote on this one piece as to whether or not we want to include it. Okay, so
I don't have anything ready now, but if you have other questions and other parts, I can keep.
I think we're done and we're ready to vote, Vic. So I
Did we
think
not talk to the
Ray?
EA about it?
I'm going to recognize Ray because Ray's not said anything yet. Ray?
Excuse me, after reading this a few times, the area in red and the whole paragraph, what I'm getting from this is that this isn't an automatic time that you get to extend. It says here that you must, to a certain degree, make your argument to the board. So, and the board has the option to extend it or not extend it. So it's not just, yes, let's do it. I mean, if there's a valid reason why there's a problem, the person makes the argument and the board will determine, yes, it sounds valid, and they can vote, yes, you get some extra time, or no, or ask how much more time do you need to get this thing remedied. So it sounds to me that it just gives the board member an opportunity to make an argument that there is a problem. I think we have some very capable people here who are a whiz at, you know, working with computers, that might be able to lend a hand and give some instructions to how to overcome some of these things. If it is pilot error, as Vic said, or if it is a problem with actually the Dunn system. So I don't see any problem with the wording, because it still puts the final decision making with the board.
Okay, John Barbera. John?
I
yeah.
know that, I know a couple of times I had a problem getting in to do the, like when we would, when I had to do the testing on that last one we had till the end of October, November. They had to reset me again. And Dan even had a problem getting into that. The problem is, for some reason, when we go, and I forgot what it's called, where we have to log on to after you go and then you see the
Cornerstone.
dates. Cornerstone, right, thank you. So when you get the Cornerstone and you log in, it's like everything's gone, your password, everything, and you got to go back. Luckily I have it, but I've had it written down, but then I put it back in there and it wasn't accepting me. And the other problem that they were having, I had done the funding, and this was just recently, and you know, Vic and I both went back and forth with them because they kept putting that my funding was only good till the 2021. But I did it. I actually went to a class and did it online. And thank God I had the certificate and all of that to back it up. But every time, so then we fixed it. A week later, Vic goes, hey, you're back over there on 2021. So it's Dunn that's been having a problem with that program. And you know, so that's how we got to look at this. It's not really nobody's fault. It's their fault. So got to
Thank you,
give more
John.
time.
What I would like to do at this point is see if someone wants to make a motion with regard to the amendment, the proposed amendments in here. And your motion could either include or exclude this phrase, depending on how you want to do it.
I have a motion.
Okay, Gwen has a motion.
I have a motion to keep this phrase, but there's some other amendments to the two sentences just prior to that in order. I concur with Ray as far as what the intent of this is, but be more specific in the language of the two sentences ahead.
What is your proposed amendment then? Motion, Gwen.
Okay, well, let's make sure that this is the clarification that needs to be done. In the first sentence, that board members not completing training within 60 days of being seated or after the expiration of their training shall lose all council voting rights until such time as they have completed training. And the other thing is okay, the other sentence sounds very clear. What I wondered, and this is a devil's advocate, is a big,
So wait a minute. I want to get the, Gwen, before you go on, I want to make sure is your motion to approve all of the bylaws changes with that addition?
with that addition.
So your motion,
Remove there and put all council voting rights.
That's an amendment.
so,
Yeah.
no, because we don't really have a motion on the floor yet. So we're getting a motion on the floor
The motion is to approve them all with that additional.
with that one addition. Okay. So that's the motion, is to approve all of the proposed amendments with that one addition of the word all. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it to get
Is
us
that
in.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll see if there's any proposed amendments. Cynthia, you have your hand up.
Oh, didn't we talk to the city attorney about this? Wouldn't he give us better clarification?
Well, the city attorney wrote this is how they suggested wording it, except for the sentence that we were adding. The rest of it was that their suggested wording.
But the sentence we're adding says that somebody could vote even though they said not
Right.
to let them vote. So that's a big difference. That's totally
So the city
changing.
attorney will be reviewing this, and if the city attorney disagrees, they would take that out. I'm not speaking for or against the amendment, but I am answering your question. This is always subject to city attorney review and approval.
Right, but asking them in advance, they might just say, no way, this will never go. So
It would be impossible for us to get that answer in advance of the due date of this. They don't work that way, unfortunately.
Yeah, okay.
So, okay, I'm gonna take one last, My question was, did anyone have any amendments to this?
I,
Craig, is your
yeah,
hand
I
up for
think,
amendment? Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I
Okay.
thought maybe, yeah.
So I think what maybe we should, in the event that there is a problem with done rather than a board member, in the acknowledged problem, that we can extend the training time.
So how would you change that sentence? What's your proposed amendment to that sentence?
In the event that done is unable to successfully allow us to into the program, we can, for individual board members, extend the time.
Craig, do you mind if I give you a
Well,
simple?
you can't use the word us in here, Craig. But so
The board may add its
Okay,
option
board-
vote to extend the
in
time.
the event that Dunn is unable to successfully allow a board member into the program? Is that what you
A-
mean?
And any board member,
Any board member into the training platform?
the board at its option may vote to extend the time for completion.
May I suggest a wording that might be simpler and more to the point, but is to Craig's point completely?
Yes,
In the event that a board member is unable to complete the training due to a technical difficulty with the system or something of that nature.
does that satisfy you, Craig, or not? Your amendment?
I mean, I'm trying to make it so it's verifiable that we're having a problem on Dunn's end. It's not a problem with the person, the board member having, not doing their due diligence and following through.
Well, it could be even the email system and a communication to a board member. Maybe the email was typed in wrong. So it wouldn't necessarily be the actual.
Yeah, but
Right,
let's
so-
let's be honest here. I had problem like John was saying, but I went back and looked up my previous information and went in. But when in previous times, you can call Dunn up. They will give you the information. There's at a certain time, if we can verify from Dunn, I see that as more of something than if we're saying somebody's saying, well, I'm having a trouble signing in and, I don't know what to do. And, and I'm just throwing up my hands, and not taking and doing their own due diligence.
Okay, so Craig has made an amendment, a suggested substitution of language in there. In the event that Dunn is unable to successfully allow a board member into the training platform, the board may at its option vote to extend the time for completion. Is there a second to that proposed amendment?
Okay,
What? Did I hear
I
a second?
second.
Who's that?
Yeah, John.
John
John.
seconded. John? Okay, so let's vote on the proposed language first.
We hear it one more time.
Yeah, can you read it, Cynthia, on the screen?
Oh, it's
In the
tiny.
event-
Let me see if I can make it bigger because it's tiny.
I'll just read it for you. In the event that Dunn is unable to successfully allow a board member into the training platform, the board may at its option vote to extend the time for completion. It just sort of turned the sentence around to put Dunn
How much
first.
time are we going to give them though? I mean, another month, 2 months?
That would be at the board's option, depending what the problem was. This doesn't address that. Okay, so let's vote on this. I'm going to call roll for this. I'm going to call it Amendment 1. John Barbera,
Yes,
Craig Goldfarb,
Yes,
Cynthia Gonier,
Oh, I'm not muted.
it's just substituting Craig's language with the language that Victor had put in there.
Right. Okay, yes.
Gwen Henry,
Come back to me, please. Thank you.
Ray Regalado,
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
Yes.
Okay, and I'll vote yes. So we will substitute that language. I'm going to do that right now.
I think Dunn has a lot of problems interacting with everybody's different computer setup. It sounds like it's a communication problem between computers.
Well, that's lots of problems with it, I think. Okay, so now we go back to the main motion that Gwen made. Unless somebody has another amendment. And Craig, I see your hand up. Is that still
I didn't
Craig?
lower, I'm sorry.
okay? Vic?
My only, I know you just voted on this, but my only problem with that wording is that this is talking about specifically not being able to get into the training platform.
Right. That
It does not address if you're getting into the platform just fine, but the platform is not telling you that you have training to do, which is why I think the previous wording would be better because it takes that into account.
Okay, well, we have now voted on this, so. Okay, so now we're going to vote on the original motion, which is to approve the bylaws changes with the addition of the word all and the change in this language in this sentence. John Barbera,
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
Yes,
Cynthia Gonier,
Yes,
Gwen Henry.
No.
No,
No.
it was your motion.
I know, but with this amendment, with this new amendment, I concur with Vic.
yeah, and you know what, when Vic
We're
just spoke
voting.
up a
Let's not
couple
have a
seconds ago,
discussion.
I agreed with him too. Can we take back our vote?
You want to change your vote?
Yeah, I agree with Vic.
All right, so, okay, we'll go back to the original, the motion on the amendment. Technically, there's a way of doing that, but I'm just going to do it easy. We're going to go back and re-vote on the wording proposed by, that was in Craig's motion. And I forgot to write down who was the second.
It was Ray.
It was,
No, I was.
it was John. That's right. Okay, so to that proposed language, which is the language that appears there now. John Barbera, how do you vote?
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb,
yes,
Cynthia Gonier?
Yeah.
You said you wanted to change your vote, Cynthia.
Yeah, oh, yeah, right, no, I'm gonna, because this is the one I'm reading right now, just to leave it that one that's red, that one statement in red, right?
It's this one here, which
Yeah, that
changed
one
the original
statement.
wording that Victor had proposed.
And the
But he,
amendment by Craig.
but he had said it was not just that they couldn't get in, but that they weren't completing it, right?
What
He was saying it wasn't clear enough.
We need another amendment.
what I said is that in this particular instance, the person was able to get into the platform just fine. But the platform did not notify him that he had any training to complete, even though he really did.
Huh.
So in that situation, this statement would not apply because he was able to get into the platform.
It's too specific.
Well, and then I had a problem one time, remember, Vic, when you you looked at one thing and it said, no, I didn't do it, and I had completed it, and I had it, the other one that said I did. So there were two different
Yeah.
ones from the city.
Yeah,
One said, yes, I
remember
did
that.
it, one said, no, I didn't.
Can you, Diana, can you do a Control Z and undo? Would that make it easier?
Control C,
Control Z.
Control Z.
Zed.
Zed, yeah, I was gonna say Canadian Zed.
No, it didn't work.
Okay,
I
Not
think
a
I can
Canadian
recreate it.
computer.
Is unable to successfully complete.
hang on, I'll read it. If in the event that a board member is unable to complete the training due to problems with the done training platform. And I'm not able to see what you're typing because I have another app up, so tell me.
That's all right. That's what I typed.
Okay, the board may at its option vote to extend the
Yeah.
time for completion.
Yeah. Okay, so those are the two choices we've discussed. And so we are back now voting on Craig's original suggestion, which said in the event that done is, which is the second option down here. In the event that done is unable to successfully allow a board member into their training platform. The first one says is in the event that a board member is unable to successfully complete the training due to problems with the done training platform. And they both say the
I
board
mean-
may at its option extend.
I mean,
Craig?
this is sort of confusing the issue because we're talking about two different issues. One is, oh, one is that the platform is not telling them they need to complete training. And the other one is that they're not able to get into the platform to
Yeah,
do their
yeah.
training.
Yeah. And the first, the one that was originally in there would cover either of those situations. The second one would not. The one that you proposed would not. So I think we've discussed it quite a bit.
Yep.
You know, can we vote on it now, Gwen, or do you need to say something else?
No, I do not.
Okay, then we're gonna vote again on Craig's proposed amendment, which is the second wording down here. In the event that Dunn is unable to successfully allow a board member into the training platform, the board made its option vote to extend. If you like the first language, you're gonna vote no on the amendment. If you like the second language, you're gonna vote yes on the amendment.
Oh, brother. Ooh.
Okay, so we're gonna do it again, and we're back to John Barbera.
Yes.
Okay. Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Okay. Cynthia,
Guessing I'm a no.
you're a no. Okay. Gwen,
No,
what?
no,
No. Okay. Ray. Did Ray have to leave already?
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Who's thinking?
Yeah, I'll vote yes.
You'll vote yes. So, I got the same problem because I.
What?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And I'm gonna have to leave. soon.
Yeah. I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna vote. Yeah, I'll vote.
I know
yes.
it's hard.
I'll vote yes. So the amendment carries. So we're back to that, which is what we did the first time. It carries. And so now we're voting on the as amended. We're
Good night,
voting on
all.
the original motion
I'm gonna go. Good night,
to
all.
adopt
good night.
the changes. So Ray, how do you vote on the original motion?
I vote yes on the original motion.
Okay. John Barbera?
Yes.
Yes. Craig?
Yes.
Yes. Cynthia?
I'm gonna abstain because this is what I voted no on. Or
Gwen
no.
Henry?
I'll vote yes because it will take care of business just fine until there's another issue. Yes.
In 2
Okay,
years.
so the motion carries. So the other changes, the changes with that change have been adopted and will be forwarded to the board. The next thing, I want to actually skip down to the standing rules, and then we're going to come back to the issue of the code of conduct. See, file, save. Close. Okay. Now, do you see anything on the screen now?
What are we looking at?
Well, hopefully nothing.
A whole bunch of things. You see three things.
That's,
Now two.
yeah, that's what I was afraid of, that those all are showing up. Okay, let's do this. Except
Oh,
We see your whole screen actually at this moment.
I can't figure out now how to get to, oh, maybe this is what I have to do. I know. Standing rules, there we go. Now you see the standing rules, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm learning. Okay, the standing rules, there's just a couple of changes to the standing rules. There was, the first one is the addition of bylaws and elections as a committee of the council. And then the deletion of the word of homelessness, which never even had an explanation of what it was, but we don't have a homelessness committee. So proposal was to delete it. This is just a technicality, just saying what we're actually doing right now. The only other significant change is actually the addition of the candidate documentation that was in the bylaws. We took it out of the bylaws, and then we moved it over here to the standing rules. So I would entertain a motion for adoption of the changes to the proposed changes to the standing rules. Does anyone want to move to adopt them?
Could you actually scroll back to the committees, please, just for a moment?
Yeah,
We had a recent change to environment and sustainability. We had agreed upon that.
you want to, is that to the name?
Yes, that's the name.
Sure. Okay. Now, would anyone like to move to adopt these changes?
I move to adopt.
Oh, okay. Is there a second?
I'm so sorry. Before we have the second, since it's still holding, is that S still necessary? Are we ever going to come across a selection? We're going to see that. Remember that?
Yeah, we have kept that. That is in our bylaws as well. Yeah, that language is there to give us the option.
Then I second.
Okay, second by Gwen. Okay, I see Victor's hand.
In the list of committees, don't we also need to add the executive?
Well, we have a whole paragraph on the executive committee, and it's a kind of a different nature of a committee. So I left it separate. We have this whole section on it.
Okay,
Anything else before we vote on this one? Okay, all in favor of adopting the proposed changes to the standing rules with that one change that Gwen added in there? John,
Yes.
Craig,
No,
no, Cynthia,
yes.
Gwen,
Yes.
Ray is gone, I think. He had to leave, and I'll say yes. So that motion carries. Okay, that gets us to the question of the code of conduct. And I cannot see, when I'm screen sharing, I can't see if there's any other hands outside of the, no, I can only see two. I can't see the attendees. So if there's a hand in attendees, would someone please let me know?
How many attendees do we have?
I don't know.
We have Pat.
Just Pat.
are you
I can
toggling
tell
your view?
What?
If you go down to the bottom, when you see your view and you see participants and it'll show you attendees.
Yeah, not when you're screen sharing. When you're
Well,
screen
no,
sharing,
it's not on, the screen sharing goes on the other side.
well, when I'm screen sharing, Well, let me see something. No,
Try
uh-uh.
selecting
That
participants.
disappears when I'm screen sharing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I wish I could figure that out.
That's what I said,
Do
computers
you-
act differently all the time.
can you see a view?
Can I
You
see a
see-
view?
Do you have a
You see
room
the
with a
view,
view?
can you minimize it?
Can I what?
Minimize it? When you go up into view in the right-hand corner,
Yeah.
it says, you can have it full screen and you can take it off full screen. So when it
Um,
says full screen,
Ye-
exit full screen.
Yeah, you don't see those things I don't see those things when I'm screen sharing.
Okay.
Isn't that interesting?
I do believe there is
Oh.
a selection, but not to be figured out right now. I don't.
So anyway, so then the next thing is, and I'm gonna say a couple things and then I'm gonna turn it over to Craig, but let me put. Let's see if I take this down. Save the changes. And put up this. My question, though, kind of as we start to talk about the code of conduct, is really to ask the question of, do you all think that neighborhood councils need a code of conduct? And if so, why do we need a code of conduct? So we think about the context and then look at the specifics. No thoughts on whether or not there's a need for code of conduct.
I mean, a code of conduct test and everything?
I say, what?
Like the test that we have to take or the code
No,
of conduct
this-
training?
No, this is a question of really a code of how people are supposed to behave. And then what should be done if they don't meet those standards. And what I noticed when I read that draft code of conduct is it's very specific about behaviors. It goes on and on and on in a lot of specificity. Well,
We need it.
let me turn it over to Craig and let Craig talk about, kind of his thoughts on the code of conduct.
Okay, I mean, we've all read this. I mean, if you've all read this thing, they took this from an employee's handbook, which it doesn't really apply to us. I mean, we're elected, we get in heated arguments about stuff we're doing, people will say things. But a lot of that is taken like, oh, you're biased against me because I have a hairstyle that you don't like. And if it goes on, when you start looking at it and you start looking at the grievance policy, and if you even go further and look at their, what do you call it, social media policy, they're trying to really censor and clamp down on a lot of behavior that should be, people do have bias and prejudice, and we all realize that. We took the implicit bias training. We did a lot of this stuff, and we understand that, but is that reason to come up with this rather draconian policy? The other policy that you read it and understood, you should behave yourself to a certain extent, I thought was at least they wanted to enforce that much stronger, and people just signed off, yeah, I read this. And now they want to say, oh, you're going to adhere to all this, and then they're going to remove you based on that. And it goes too far.
Are you saying, excuse me, Craig, but are you saying that, so I'm taking notes on this, are you saying that the existing policy should be enforced rather than creating a new one? Is that part of what you're saying?
No, I'm saying
Oh,
the
that's not what you're
existing
saying.
policy, I mean, the whole thing comes down to we're all adults. We may not like other adults, but we're all adults. John, you got your hand raised. What is your feeling here or
Well,
thoughts?
this is the one that, if I believe Beltran is pushing. Am I right?
Actually, it appears to me that it's two commissioners that are pushing this version.
Well, I know, but she was one of them.
Schaefer
Then-
and
And
Schaefer
I
No,
and-
she's not a
agree.
commissioner.
No, she's
Right.
not a commissioner.
No, she's not, but this is one that they got us at that time, and if Doug was here, he'd tell you the same thing. What Craig is telling you, this is not, it doesn't pertain to us. You know, it's like, yeah, we do,
Well-
you know, we do have our say-so, and we say things and slip of the tongue and stuff, but this does not pertain, and we're adults and old enough, you know, we're not 6-year-olds, and this is kind of like, boy, you slip up one time and you're out. I mean, you could lose, you know, you could lose people left and right with this thing. So that's what I have on this.
So do you have any specific feedback that you can give them in terms of what needs to be changed?
What was wrong with the old one? Our original code of conduct.
People still violated code of their conduct, but the old one.
But not us. You know,
Pardon?
stakeholders will do that.
This doesn't
yeah.
do anything about stakeholders. And
You're not
they-
gonna, and we're not gonna be able to get into that because that's something that LA City has done. They
Yeah.
could say whatever they want, stakeholders. I think it's wrong, but it's, you know. But what this is this almost looks like it's for us. They're gonna penalize us real quick. Unless they come up with a better one, you know.
Well, and generally, the way you have to approach something like this is come up with, you know, alternative language
Right.
to recommend.
I
If
thi-
you don't like what they're saying, what would you like to see?
I'm on the same page, but I thought, this is going way too far. It's not just changing language. This is taking something that came in an employee handbook. And, that applies to employees, and we're not employees. And then they're saying, and then if you start looking at the grievance policy, they're gonna use this as a basis for removing people. And what I said, it's basically a blueprint for bullying. This is how you remove somebody. This is how you get, if Dunn doesn't like you, they can remove you.
Right.
So we should just say, my thing is, no, this is not appropriate for neighborhood councils. You're going way too far. What we had before, while not perfect, at least covered what expectations. But we need to realize that it's sometimes people are gonna say things we're not gonna like to hear people say. And it's not just on the right, it's on the left, it's in the middle. People say things. People slip of the tongue, everything. Gwen?
You know, like that first sentence says that we're volunteers. No, I mean, we're elected. Am I right or wrong? We're
We
elected.
volunteer our time.
Yeah, we volunteer our time,
A lot
exactly.
of it.
Yeah, but it's not, it says, here the way, we're being considered volunteers. But yet you vote for us. Nobody, even if we do the board, like with Ray, we voted for that. He doesn't know, oh yeah, come on in, yeah, just, you volunteer, you can, if everybody volunteered, then shit, we'd have, 18, 19, 20 people on the board. So basically it's 17. So that's what I'm saying. Like Craig says, it's just wording's wrong on this. And it's not for us.
Gwen,
You've got a hand up in attendees too when you're ready.
Go ahead
Gwen?
and go ahead and do Pat.
I can't hear you. Oh,
Said
Gwen,
do Pat, let
Oh.
Pat talk.
Pat? I don't know if I can,
Oh, you need to unmute him, yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to take down this.
Can you make a co-host?
I know what I'm gonna do, yeah.
Put him as a panelist.
Or yes, panelist.
You can hover over him and give him permission to speak or make him a
no.
panelist.
I just, Victor, I just made you a co-host so you can let him in. Can you do that, Victor?
Okay, he should be able to talk now.
He unmuted me. Thank you. I think I think Craig is right that this is it's a handbook for employees. They're way more detailed than it needs to be and all of that. But it strikes me that if we don't come up with some language to promote and get them to adopt and make the discussion document, they're going to do what they want. So I think we're going to have to come up with some draft language of our own, or we're just going to get swamped with this stuff. That's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying, Pat. But just saying no probably won't cut it. We probably have to come up with
All
what
right.
we would be willing to say yes to. Gwen, your
Right.
hand's up.
Well, with that, Craig has a good point that this should be in a training. And with that, then with the code of conduct, you can dispense with the detail saying that with the training, the behaviors perhaps with Pat's wording, maybe go positive with we are representatives of the city, and with this, we hold ourselves to a high standard, and we set an example for others. Stakeholders may have different things to say, but something along those lines. Nonetheless, the really onerous part of this is that there is that the person is suspended based on one single individual, and that is completely separate from anything the city council has. When it's the meeting out of a decision on whether your conduct is inappropriate or not, your vote is taken away until it's all sorted out. That's onerous. That's completely onerous. So, I mean, if there is some way that we can take sections of this and say this should be in a training, not in the code of conduct.
See, I disagree. I don't think this should be a training. I think, like the thing about the code of conduct, if it was brief and somebody could read it. This
It's all
new
on it.
code of
It's absurd.
conduct is like multiple pages. It covers stuff that really isn't pertinent. And it really looks, I mean, if I was going to come up with a blueprint to, oh, this is how you can bully them. You can say, oh, you don't like that, you wear hair buns, you think they're funny. And that person can say, I think they're being biased against me. We need to come up with, if we're going to say that something needs to be succinct and to the point, and the other side of this is it doesn't, as an employee, you have a union representing you, you have all these other things representing you. We have nothing. You have no backup. They can take away the vote of our stakeholders to elect you based on the point of whether they like you or not, is what it comes down to.
What I
have an amendment.
I'm not sure that I understand what the relationship between this and censure, and why it is that the neighborhood council is not the one handling it, why it's the power is being given to Dunn.
Right.
Why couldn't that power be given to the neighborhood council as a part of censure? And maybe I haven't been following this at all, so I may be off ground, but that was the first thought I had is, where's the neighborhood council in this? Shouldn't they be the ones that are doing it, and wouldn't it fit into censure? Gwen?
Well, I'm going to back up a bit. What you're talking about, yes, the whole, who is the overall deciding person, deciding group? Absolutely, I agree with you, Diana. Now with Craig's point, there's a lot of wording in here that is very subjective, like engaging in pranks and horseplay. That's so subjective. Buffoonery. stunts of buffoonery. You know, humiliating games and activities. I I'm at a loss. Anyway,
I'm gonna hand it back to Craig, because I actually wanted Craig to lead this discussion. I kind of took over, Craig. I'm sorry.
Was half of one and half of another because, every time I looked at this thing and I go into, pardon me, the rules and regulations that are in the city. I can't say the word. The city put up concerning Dunn and concerning Bonk, concerning the neighborhood councils. I went back to the point that the neighborhood councils were supposed to come up with bylaws. There was some guidance, and all of a sudden you see the change in the language all the way across. And I don't remember when all this started, though I came in a little bit later, in any of the bylaws that there was really a code of conduct. So Bonk came up with this very basic code of conduct. And we said, okay, but we really don't want to be corralled into that. So they came up with language saying, well, you can just say you read it, so you understand what the code of conduct is. Now we come up with this thing like, and I'm just sitting, why, we need to, I don't know how, we can come up with another rule and they say, and they'll amend it over. And what I'm saying is, yeah, I can see some point where people need to change, or maybe, but at one point we're still adults. We still need to sit there and say, hey, this stuff is not for us.
So,
well,
Gwen and then I'll
Gwen?
go-
Craig.
Yeah.
Actually, Diana, anybody. The one question that keeps coming up is, what is the code of conduct for the city council? What is their code of conduct?
That'd be interesting to see.
That's where we need to see is what they are doing. We are elected officials. I would like to see their documents.
I have never seen one.
Exactly. Thank you. Whatever the city council has, and that has always been the issue, whatever the city council has for code of conduct, and of course they must go through a training. Well, we've had some highly elected officials who don't know how to control themselves, but they're
Pat, do you know if the city council has a code of conduct? You're muted. I think you were answering, but you're muted.
I'm not aware of any. I do know what they did to Ridley Thomas recently. They removed him, basically removed him from office. And I've always wondered what they were referring to have the power to do that.
Well, they've removed several people from office for various reasons. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so it's a good question. Seems to me, in listening to the discussion, that maybe what we need at this point, I understand that this is a discussion that may go on for a while at Bonk, that it's not like something we have to act on immediately. But maybe what we want is a motion for the board that makes a strong statement about why the current policy is unacceptable, and does ask to see whatever policy there is for the city council.
That's good.
And yeah, and so at this point, it's, and some of the reasons that this current policy is unacceptable, which I think everyone is spelling out.
Yeah, no,
That is-
I on the Ridley Thomas thing, I think it was because of it had something to do with, that he was indicted and they could remove him under that. I don't think it was more of a code of conduct. I think it was more of a
illegal.
yeah.
Yeah.
But Pat's hands raised. What do you have more on that?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's because he got arrested, and there's an investigation, but they had some basis for doing it, or some feeling that they had the
Evidence.
power to do that. I do think that there's a difference between the city council and neighborhood councils, though. I will say this, is that in the past, years ago, when neighborhood councils were first formed up, there was a requirement that bylaws include a grievance procedure in them, and it was a way for council members or stakeholders or really anyone to file a grievance and have it heard by the neighborhood council, and then if they weren't happy with it, to take it to done. And I still think, I mean, everybody here has some ideas on what a code of conduct, if we have one, or a grievance procedure should contain, and I'd like to see some drafts of it that could be adopted, and then Ray, as a member of the bunk, could carry them, and and maybe we could have some influence on the adoption of the policy. But if we don't have something in writing to submit to them as an alternative, they're going to do what they want.
I just had a thought. Budget, the people, the treasurer and people who manage the budget, it has transformed considerably. There are a lot more responsibilities. There's a lot more paperwork, detail work. With that, they have expressed to those people the deep responsibility, and that person can be held liable for their conduct as treasurer. So don't make any mistakes. What Pat said, there are civil suits. That was the other thing. There are civil suits if I used a racial slur and said something, along the seven, the deadly sins of, you know what I mean? That is actionable. But this laundry list is very subjective.
So,
I think that's one of the reasons why I said we need to go back to what we were doing with the previous code of conduct, because it was a very succinct thing, and it was saying, okay, we recognize these are the rules we should follow, and we know we're adults.
And
What this is changing to is, no, you're not adults. We have to slap your hand anytime we don't like what you're doing.
I think that still being held responsible in that there is a grievance process. If you slap somebody, they should have the ability to air the grievance,
it would be the censure process. The grievance process
Right.
doesn't only addresses
Right,
when you
yes.
violate certain things, but this would
My
come
error.
under, I would think this would come under the censure policy. And I don't see why we need an additional policy if we've already got a censure policy.
Yeah.
And maybe
Don?
that's one of the questions we should be asking.
Diana John's got his hand up.
Okay. Attachment A, I went into the code of conduct that they have for the Empower LA that was put out in 2016 or 2014. It says here, number one, neighborhood council board members should conduct themselves in a professional and civil manner. 2, neighborhood council board members should treat other board members and members of the public with respect, regardless of the other's opinion, ethnicity, race, religion, religious beliefs or non-belief, color, creed, national origin, ancestry, sex, sexual orientation, gender, gender expression, age, disability, marital status, income, homeowner status, renter status, or political affiliation. Number 3, neighborhood council board members should not, during meetings, function, or events, engage in or threaten to engage in any physical attack on any other individual. Number 4, neighborhood council board members should not use language that is threatening, obscene, or slanderous, including profanities, insults, or other disparaging remarks or gestures directed towards other board members. And it keeps going. There's 5, 6, and then on 6 it has, like Craig said, bullying and all that. So this is the one that Empower LA had put out, I guess, back in 2014, what do you think? Is this something that we should go back to, stay with this and not?
I've got to honestly say that this new one, its tone is one of such cynicism that, I mean,
Well, it's like Craig is saying,
it's
they can slap, they're slapping us. They're hitting us upside the head with a 2x4, whatever it takes, and you're out.
I just laughed while you said that, and that could put me out.
The 2x4, yeah.
No, just laughing
Oh.
at you're saying that because I
Oh.
reacted to it.
Yeah.
I roll my eyes. That could be taken as, it's just too
No, but you know what
broad.
I'm saying? Yeah, it's all, this other policy that was there, it just tells you what to do and how to act. And like Craig was saying, we're on an honor system. Basically, we're on an honor system here.
How many people have been bad? I mean, really bad in the 99 neighborhood codes?
there have been some unusually,
There's been a few
yeah.
throughout the system.
I mean, but if you look at it, some of the egregious things, like somebody picks a fist fight, that's legally,
Yeah, there's a lot.
actionable.
System. Yeah.
Better than a duel.
Yeah. But, I agree. We need to come up with, before the board, maybe we can come up with something and we can re-meet or to say to the fact, this is just too much. But I don't think that, I think the original code of conduct and the way it was being handled was appropriate.
Right.
I
Well-
think this is not. Gwen?
Well, with that, clearly, I mean, again, the cynicism in this, it sounds like there's an entire staff of people who, even with all of those, the good words in the original code of conduct, people were still acting badly. And this is the generated result of people still acting badly, even with that code of conduct. I don't think that, I believe that they are trying to resolve something and make it as clear as possible. You cannot act this way. And it ended up being a very cynical document. There has to be a solution that it's in the, I understand that they said, okay, we're going to have somebody in Dunn make the final word. I understand that their frustration, but I believe that it
they
should
gave
be-
they gave Dunn, if you read the grievance policy, they gave Dunn in the city charter, when you read those sections, they gave Dunn, even when you go to the grievance, just so you know, and they recommend, Dunn can do anything they want.
Yeah, exactly.
They gave Dunn carte blanche.
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
and we're
the
sitting
city
here
attorney?
going, no, this is in the city charter. This is what they wrote on the grievance policy. And Dunn basically can say, I don't like Cynthia Gagne. Even after it goes through the grievance, because they can say, oh, you know what, we're going to suspend Cynthia for 6 months, or we're just going to declare her position open. And what they're going back to is, oh, now we got to have justification. So we came up with this new code of conduct. This will cover everything.
Well, actually, there is a problem. Let's just recognize that this reaction from Dunn staff and whomever else is behind this. There is a problem. Is there any, I mean, I almost feel like talking frankly with some of the Dunn staff to find out what the problem is and try to get to the heart of that and come up with a simple solution, because this just sounds like anger. It's like an angry document and an angry solution to, screw y'all. So with that, I think there is a solution. It's getting to the heart of it, because the problem with these documents, these new ones, is that it gets everybody so emotional. It's just too much. And it does get people emotional. And so the solution is never gotten to. So what we really have to do is dispense with all of that and find out what really the intent of this is and what they really want to have resolved. And then come up with that solution and
I think,
hand it to them.
no, but I think the intent is, we're living this, if I told you that things were going to be this acrimonious 10, 15 years ago in our political sphere, you would said, no way. But today it's like everything's a fight. Everybody's, even if you disagree with somebody, you can't disagree with somebody. And that's what this is trying to control, and it's, if you notice in my comment, I said something about being woke. It's just, we're going way too far trying to say, oh, we can control all this stuff. And I don't think we should or should want to. I mean, certain things we have to stop.
So I've written just a very brief thing here that's on the screen, I believe. Says the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council is strongly opposed to the proposed code of conduct. The proposed code is onerous and inappropriate for volunteer elected officials. We support the existing code of conduct and propose that the way to address violations of the code of conduct should be addressed through the censure policy rather than setting up a new process. There may be a need, however, for some changes to the censure policy to address this. So I throw that out there for consideration.
That's very good. Also,
I see this is a starting point, not an end point, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I agree. I see little rooms on the ends. Pardon me. Go ahead.
well, this is a new thought. You finish the thought regarding Diana's.
What I'm seeing is, if we do that, then we need to look at the censure policy and the grievance policy. And because both of them go hand in hand, and we need this, but the pushback, and always the pushback here is, let's start with the point that we're all adults. You may not like that somebody's adultness, but we're all adults.
Well, and this may be the perfect segue. Can I speak? To that point, and to your original point, we're kind of getting into a way of communicating with each other. I mean, the whole world is, that's very very cruel. Really, honestly, I mean, when you get to the basics, it's about leading by example. Instead of this list of all of the negatives, is there a document to say this is how you do conduct yourself? These are the things that we want to see happen, and how to conduct yourself. Raise your hand. Get called on. I mean, I know, and reinforce the training of Robert's rules and the Brown Act, and really educate people on the positive way it's supposed to happen. Lead by example and give the ways we are supposed to. And then in contrast, maybe if they want to give something in contrast as an example, this is not this is not appropriate, this is appropriate. You know,
I think
but that's a
Diana,
good training.
that Diana did a really good thing.
Yeah,
In putting down what we were saying, and I think a lot of us are in agreement about the existing code of conduct. I think this is a place to start. And then we all need to sit down and look at these things and write it up. And we can either we can have another meeting, or we can resubmit it, or we can take it to the board and discuss it some more. Because I think it goes to the heart of what we're all looking for. I mean, and part of it is we need to find a way to discuss things even though we don't agree. And being able to listen to people that we don't agree with and find where we have the common ground
And then
and
walk
where we
away.
don't.
Yeah, and then walk away friends afterwards, instead of angry after our meetings.
Everybody has an opinion, and it needs to be shared, and we just have to respect everybody's opinion, like Craig's saying. And no matter what we do, it's up to us. We're the individuals in this mess. Okay. And we're letting somebody else dictate, I mean, we're going to socialism, but they're dictating how we're supposed to be conducted. Okay. I know we tell our children, okay, don't walk in a puddle of water. You're going to get your feet wet. Do they listen? No, they like stomping in it. Well, okay, well, that's a different story than that. We're not children. And I believe that's what Craig is trying to say. We're adults here. It's like, we should, Craig says one thing, okay, fine. You know what? That's his opinion. And everybody, I say this thing, and Gwen doesn't like it, that's his opinion. I have another one. Listen, that's what makes a better world. And that's what makes a better group of people, that we all put our input in and have our opinions, and not let somebody come up with this thing and tell us, shut up, don't say it, and get out.
Pat's got his hand raised. Pat, are you speaking?
Yeah, thank you. A little hesitant to talk this morning. Sounds to me like I'm keyed on what a couple of you said, particularly Craig, about we're all adults here, and we don't need to have somebody giving us a book of rules really here. But at the same time, what if we focus on process? Because there doesn't seem to be there seems to be some pushback against having Washington D.C. decide all of the issues for us. By that I mean done staff or something like that. What if we made some suggestions in the area of process, how disagreements can get resolved if intervention is needed in some way?
I agree with that.
Mm.
So, I mean, it really isn't
You're
just
not coming through, Craig.
Yeah, you're still muted, Craig.
Yeah, no, still nothing.
Let me.
Oh, there you are.
There, we had you for a minute.
Weird.
Here's some noise over there while you're readjusting.
That leaves something to the imagination.
Something's clattering.
This better?
Yes.
Okay.
What
The
were you
battery's
doing?
dying down.
Oh,
I think we're lacking is, what are our Bill of Rights? What are our, you're accused and you have no appeal. You have no, even if you look at it, the censor policy, you're muted. You can say something at the board meeting and then you're cut off. You don't get a vote. You don't get anything, and the whole thing is at what point where are our rights? Where can we appeal something? Where can we, is there mea culpa? What? When we're talking about process, what is the process? If I was an employee, I have a union supporting me. Diana and Pat both work for this city. They can tell you the union had a huge say. I know with my wife, it in the county, they have a huge say. But as a board member, Dunn can say, hey, goodbye. Thank you for your service. And we're just going to ignore that you got all these stakeholder votes because we don't like what you are or have to say, or you're to this or to that. And I think maybe what we're going to say is you're telling us what we can't do, but you're not telling us what we can't, what our rights are.
So based on what everyone said, I've made some additional changes in here. I'll read it again with those suggested changes. The Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council is strongly opposed to the proposed code of conduct. The proposed code is onerous and inappropriate for volunteer elected officials. Rather than a list of negatives, we would like to see a list of positive behaviors council members should be modeling. We support the existing code of conduct and propose that the way to address violations of the code of conduct should be addressed through the censure policy rather than setting up a new process. There may be a need, however, for some changes to the censure policy to address this, including appeal rights. There may also be a need to set up a process for resolving disagreements, possibly with some type of intervention. So it puts out some ideas without leaving time to go back and develop them.
Can I ask a question? So we have the code of conduct. We have a censure process. What other documents really completely create this entire process here?
Well, you've got the grievance process, but the grievance process really addresses more legal issues.
Okay, so there's three: grievance, censure,
And the code of conduct. And the censure policy actually references the code of conduct, which is interesting because I was kind of reading it to see its applicability. But it says it talks about the motion to censor should not be based on conclusions. So it shouldn't say for alleged violations of the code of conduct, but should contain the factual statement that describes it. So, if it's in this censure policy, why are they setting up this other process?
Well, maybe that should be the question right there.
Well, that's why I'm just saying address it through the code of conduct. Anyway, that's a proposed something we could move tonight, and then there's time to come back and do more. Pat, does that get to the issue of the process question that you were raising?
A little bit. I think it's kind of weak. I think it should be pretty easy to draft up something for the council and Dunn to consider. I think we ought to be a little more proactive. But I'm not on this committee even, so.
What do you suggest?
Write something up. I mean, there's several good writers here. I mean, Craig can do it, Quinn can do it, John can do it.
What else does it need to say, Pat?
What?
What else does it need to say at this point? This is to
I
get
think
something to our board
I think
this
we-
month. The idea is to get something to our board this month, and then we can do more after that.
Well, if somebody has a complaint and they file it with the board will either hear it or assign somebody to hear it. And then if they aren't satisfied, they can appeal it to, with the outcome, they can appeal it to Dunn.
Well, I'm still confused as to why that isn't the censure policy.
I don't know, maybe it is.
Oh, okay.
I think we should all go look through this again and meet back. And maybe we could write some stuff and send it to, I can work on it a little bit more and send it to Diana. And we could come back with a collation because there's a lot here I mean, and I mean, part of it is, it's not just, board members were depriving of, their rights on the board, but the stakeholders that elected them. They have different opinions. Whether we agree with them or disagree with them, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, it's the real thing that we're all talking about is
Oh, you've died
We
again.
lost you, Craig.
Craig, you're muted.
Yeah, he knows.
Unmute. There you go.
There's a technical problem.
how do we get people to, a lot of it is, we need to say maybe instead of, where we do need training is de-escalation policy, de-escalation. I mean, when I first took the implicit bias training, I was like, oh, come on. This is a bias you don't know you have. And then I'm sitting there going, when I went through the training, I was saying, no, this provided good information. And I discussed it with my wife, and she had a much more involved implicit bias training. And I think, hey, there are techniques you learn to listen to people. There are techniques that we could put together, saying, it's okay. And you can be impassioned about something and not take offense to it when somebody says something else. And just because you don't agree, at the end of the day, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat my dinner. And I'm going to talk to my children and play with my dogs and everything else that goes on. So and you are too. And that's the important thing. And maybe what we need to be telling him is, like Gwen was saying, we need to it's to be incentivizing in what we're doing positive behavior instead of, positive reinforcement works a lot better than negative reinforcement.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, one of the comments in a lot of in all of the code of conduct meetings that I've heard, it seems that it's also, again, a cynical way of avoiding doing your job, which is proper training. I mean, I know that the intent of the neighborhood councils is also to give people the correct tools in order to also be involved in a higher level of government and actually eventually become elected officials. This is a training ground. So this cynical document is not doing it. It's a shortcut for not actually doing the job, which is what we're getting at, which is training, proper components. I think that even though we are volunteer, I think that extra components of training are useful. And if it's lacking, then there are models that there's got to be a training model of how to conduct yourself, and you go through it.
I have to go. I'm starving and I haven't eaten, so.
Me too. Diet Coke.
The question is, do we have anything that you feel comfortable presenting to the board at this meeting on the 14th? That's the question we're at.
I think I'm willing to, show that to the board and let them decide whether they would like to vote on it. I'm not sure that it's complete. I really,
Oh, I don't think it's complete. It wasn't meant to be complete. It was meant to be a starter so we could get something to the bunk to say, this is what we're thinking about. That's all it was meant to be. It wasn't meant to be complete.
What did you add, Diana? It's hard to see what you added. A couple of words.
Oh, I just changed the last sentence to say there may also be a need to set up a process or training in conflict resolution. I said a process originally, now I just put the concept of training in it. I should probably say process and training.
Once again, can we review city council
Yep.
of these things?
I think I don't think they have anything, because I was looking for it also previously, but we can research it some more um, and see whether they have anything. But the city council tends to not want to be restricted, and so they don't do these things. I was real surprised with Mark Ridley Thomas thing.
You want to add a sentence that we would request if if the city council has a code of conduct, we would request a copy of it?
Sure, why
And-
not?
Yeah, why not?
Their processes, all of it, including remediation of a problem.
Vic, you haven't said a word with this, and you're the newest person on this committee on the on the council. What do you think about all this? You're seeing it as new.
Well, I haven't looked at I guess we'd call it current one, and compared it with this one enough to be able to say whether, well, to really have an opinion on whether it's good enough or needs to be augmented or whatever. I do agree that this one puts too much power in the hands of one person. As far as the question of needing a code of conduct, I think we do. We're all adults, yes, but we have plenty of laws out there, speeding, speed limits and other laws and things like that, that if you use just we're all adults, we wouldn't need any of those. But obviously people make mistakes. They do things wrong intentionally or unintentionally. So there needs to be some way of having consequences for those things. Yeah, we're all adults, but there are some pretty blatant bad things that have been said by people during board meetings, and I'm not just talking about stakeholders. So there does need to be something. Whether the current wording is adequate, I would say probably not, for the main reason of having too much power in the hands of too few people / person. But I think we could come up with, if I agree that just saying no is not going to be enough. We're going to have to come up with wording to which we would say yes, to suggest that we give them, to suggest that they have something that's more agreeable. So I'll stop with that at this point.
Thank you.
Diana, the bit of the sentence that you just put, I guess it's number 7 without a number, about you just added it to a sentence, puts too much power in the hands of one person. I think that should be a breakout on its own, because that's not part of the code of conduct necessarily. That's part of the remediation. Who gets to mete out the punishment is a whole other section, isn't it?
Well,
And
it's part of their, what are they calling it? The code of conduct.
So I think that portion of it shouldn't be added to a sentence, but be its own sentence about in regards to who is, I mean, it should be its own thing. process.
Pat,
But that's its own section that doesn't fit with the other two sentences above that.
Why not say, hey, we'll agree to abide by the city council code of conduct. That'll make them think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If I could interject one more time that you mentioned the city code of conduct, I did a quick search while you were talking about that earlier. Just did a search on, LA City Council and code of conduct, the two phrases in quotes. And the only thing I could find that popped up was references to neighborhood councils and conduct. I could not find anything that, and I think there was something about like a contractor's code of conduct or something like that, but nothing about the council itself having a code of conduct. Now, I didn't look extensively, but the top results were all like neighborhood council related.
Right. Yeah. And that's why it's always been there. I don't know if anybody's ever.
I think that they went to the one that Empower LA did years ago, the one that I was reading. I think they went to that one. I don't think they have one.
Well, do as I say, not as I do.
Of course.
Well,
It's the proposed policy, Gwen, as opposed to the proposed code. It's broken out into two parts, the policy and then the code.
hmm. Now, at this point, I mean, I really honestly, the parties that created this code of conduct, the one thing we've never really gotten is their intent, what problem they wanted to solve, what their frustrations are, because it's like a brick wall that nobody has ever said what is it that they're trying to accomplish by raising the language and accelerating the language. And
we've been going round and round with this. I think we need to go back and take a look at it. I really want to leave for, I'm hungry.
But you don't want anything to take to the board is what you're saying, Craig, is that right?
I don't think we
I
have
think
enough.
we could take this to the board,
can
but I mean, we're not done. And
we
like you said, it's incomplete. I mean, we could take it to the board. We could send this on, maybe take some input from the board.
how about well, with the other things that we've been doing, there has been a little bit of communication and on these things. Can we in this time, rather than come back to a meeting, can we put in our suggestions in how to make this better?
This would be my suggestion. We put our suggestions into Craig, since Craig's going to present it, I think, at the board. And he can do it, and it would just require a second at the board meeting.
Okay.
You say, this has been modified and
Well,
requires a second at the board meeting.
for example, Craig, I think that number 5 should be reworked. The language should be reworked, but something like that. Anyway,
Well, I wasn't, what I was doing really was not,
yeah,
the questions weren't part of what I was writing.
yeah.
No, it wasn't. Those were just,
Got it.
starting points to think,
Right.
and they relate to each other, and, it's part of our, even if we take this to the board, it's some of those things we're going to be discussing anyways. But I mean, this is formatted. You send me your thoughts, we can put it together and we can you know, like, and, or I could take it to the executive committee, or we can take it to the,
Yeah.
Actually, I think it'd be great, Craig, if you took it to the executive committee, because several of those people had some strong feelings. I thought they would actually be on tonight. So I think that would be a very appropriate thing to do.
Well, with that, just so you know, to convey what Melanie was concerned with, it was the process of punishment. That entire thing about it being in control of one individual
Right.
in Empower LA. This is the one core bit, is the process in after this laundry list of grievance, code of conduct. It's who is going to deal with it. Is that was
well, I understand that, and I had problems with how it's being done, because, I mean, Dunn or Bonk are not elected bodies. We are. And it just seems like the wrong way to handle it. But at the same time, we need to do that. So give that input into what you're gonna send me. Vic?
When Gwen mentioned Melanie, it made me remember this. One of the big things, concerns that she had, and I agree with her on this, is that word alleged. It talks about, things being, consequences being applied based on strictly allegations with no proof of wrongdoing.
right.
And that was the biggest problem in the original wording. It's still there, but they beefed it up a little bit by talking about it being a credible allegation or something like that. I can't remember the exact wording.
That's subjective. That is subjective.
I agree. And the big question there is credible according to who?
Yeah.
And
One
I'm sure
individual.
that who is the same single person who we're talking about having too much power.
Whomever is in that role from year to year, that could be a totally different person with wholly different opinions. It's
And
totally
depending on
subjective.
who has that person's ear, from other Dunn employees to members of neighborhood councils, which we all know that some neighborhood council presidents or board members get listened to more by them and others. So
Well,
I
Sorry.
I think we got a lot for now.
Well-
Diana, can you send me
Yeah.
in Word form, so I
Yeah.
have it? I've copied it a couple times, but
But keep changing it.
yeah.
I'll send it to you, Craig, no problem.
Craig, I
Okay.
mean, with this, the document that was put out by them is an extremely emotional document. There's a lot of emotion in here and
Mhm.
anger. So what that comes down to is, again, people are emotional, and when you put it in the hands of one person who, we're not machines. Objectivity amongst human beings is that's a very difficult thing for us, and this is why we have these rules for democratic discussion. But with that, it's dangerous to put something that should be objective into the hands of someone who clearly this document says.
Gwen, I think we're agreed on this. Let's move on.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna send it to Craig, and with that, I think I'm gonna call the meeting adjourned.
Can I have a copy?
I
as
second
well
that.
to help? Yeah, second, third.
Okay,
By the way, why don't you send it to the whole
sure,
committee so that,
I'll send it to everyone,
Yeah, so we
Thank
have.
you.
it
thank
too.
you.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
no problem.
Bye, Craig.
Bye.
discussion.
Y'all have a good evening.
Good
You
night,
too,
all.
Craig. Good night.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
I don't know how to get out of here now.
If you just quit Zoom, that'll do it.
Thank you. I opened this up really big and now I have to make it smaller, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Try hitting the escape button. That might do it.
Got it. Thank you. Got it.